Hello. Dear colleagues. The heads of the regions are in touch with us, the Republic of Crimea, the Krasnodar territory, the Kherson region. Deputy Prime Minister Marat Khusnullin is right at the site of the attack. We will discuss the situation in the area of the Crimean bridge. As you know, another terrorist act was committed on the bridge tonight. Civilians were killed. A child was wounded and left without parents. Her family went to the Crimea from the Belgorod region. I ask both the leadership of this region and the federal authorities to provide all necessary assistance to the injured girl and her relatives and to take this issue under special control. Due to the terrorist attack, the roadbed on several spans of the Crimean bridge was seriously damaged, as a result of which road and rail traffic was temporarily stopped. The FSB, the investigative committee, and a number of other departments were instructed to look into the incident in detail. I have no doubt that all circumstances will be established, considering that the second terrorist attack on the Crimean bridge is already taking place. I am waiting for concrete proposals to improve the security of this strategically important transport facility. This morning we discussed this with colleagues in detail. On my instructions, a meeting of a special government commission, which includes representatives of regions and federal departments, was held. The bridge has already been restored to rail traffic. Now it is important to provide all possible support to people who, due to the blocking of traffic on the bridge, find themselves in a difficult situation. This applies to both passengers of delayed trains and motorists on the track. I ask you to report on how the issues with food and drinking water are being resolved. Are there enough medical points to provide assistance? How are traffic flows redirected? What are the proposed alternative routes for freight and cars? How is the security of these routes? The work of checkpoints and checkpoints ensured? And, finally, how are the possibilities of a ferry crossing across the Kerch Strait used? Further, it is necessary to comprehensively assess the damage caused and start restoration work as quickly as possible. I ask you to report on how the concentration of the necessary equipment and specialists is going. Is it necessary to attract additional forces and means? I ask you, Marat Khusnullin, to tell us about the current situation and the measures being taken, and then we will listen to our colleagues. Please. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, this morning, on your instructions, we held the first meeting of the Government Commission, and in full force, the Government Commission flew to the site of the terrorist attack, and it is now here. We inspected all the damage on the spot. I personally went through with the designers, with the builders. I went through and looked at all the damaged parts of the bridge. Taking into account the inspection here, we made another decision and developed joint proposals. Allow me to report on them and on the whole situation. Food stations and dry closets are organized on both sides of the bridge. Water is distributed, and ambulances are on duty. Temporary accommodation centers have been set up in Crimea. There are no traffic jams on the approaches to the bridge. Cars are in stationary parking lots. Explanatory work is being carried out jointly with the regional administrations. The regional administrations clearly keep the issue under control. We have launched a ferry service as usual for passengers and for organized transportation by bus and freight transport. The railway part of the bridge is operating normally. Trains run on schedule. One track has minor damage. That does not affect the movement of trains. Railway builders conduct a survey to determine the scope of work. Traffic on the motor part of the bridge has been suspended for the time being. Based on the results of a visual inspection of the span supports, it was found that as a result of the terrorist attack, one span of the road part in the direction of Taman was completely destroyed. It cannot be restored. Another span of the bridge from the second side, in the direction of Kerch, was damaged. Its axial displacement by 70 to 80 centimeters occurred, but, in general, it is located on the bridge support. Builders and designers are conducting a full survey. Divers are working. I can report that according to the first preliminary inspections by divers, there is no damage to the bridge supports. This is very good information. That is, we expected the worst. The bridge piers are in good condition. We plan to complete the strengthening of the entire damaged bridge support by midnight today. install a barrier, and partially organize the lighting of the bridge. Over the next day, we plan to fully restore the lighting of the bridge. We will complete all this work by 12 noon. Vladimir Vladimirovich, if everything goes well, we will first launch passenger cars weighing up to 3 tons in test mode. Then we will launch machines weighing up to 5 tons. If no unforeseen circumstances occur, then we will start to let cars through one lane at night in reverse mode. Passengers and drivers in parking lots are asking when we will start this. By 1 o'clock we will already have a complete picture. Also, we have already begun to mobilize builders and designers, bridge teams, specialists from institutes. Specialists in carrying out repair work are already arriving in Rostov. Special facilities are being assembled for the assembly of sites for the enlarged assembly of superstructures. In the Voronezh region, we have already started manufacturing metal span structures. Preliminarily, we plan to restore two-way traffic on one side by September 15 and traffic on the other side by November 1. Previously, we understand that we will have to build a temporary bridge for 250 linear meters on which we will carry out work, since approaches with floating cranes are impossible. Since the bridge support is located between the automobile and railway parts, the deadlines will be finalized as soon as the design and estimate documentation is ready. A number of decisions were made to organize traffic along an alternative land route through the territories of new regions. Passage through checkpoints will be without checking documents when leaving the Crimea and the Rostov region, and the maximum reduction in the time of verification will be at the entrance to the Crimea and the Rostov region. Vladimir Vladimirovich, thank you. In the morning what we reported to you, all instructions were given to the Ministry of Defense, to the commandants. That is, we can move around the entire route around the clock. I also ask you to pay attention to this. Thank you, Vladimir Vladimirovich. Setting up additional security posts and traffic control. Instructions were also given to the governments of the new regions to organize the provision of fuel and everything necessary along the entire length of the route. The authorities of the Crimea, the Krasnodar territory, the Ministry of Internal Affairs organized information about the alternative route. The government commission will continue to work. We have experience. A report will be made twice a day as all decisions are implemented. We expect to complete all work as soon as possible. The report is finished. Thank you. This is good news. If there is any good news at all, but the fact that the supports are not damaged is the most important thing. Please, Sergei Valerievich. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich. Dear colleagues, Marat Shakurzhanovich reported on the bridge. We are working together. We have been in touch with colleagues since the night. We are in touch with Vitaly Savelyev, Veniamin Kondratyev and colleagues. In general, Marat Shakurzhanovich described the situation on the bridge. Of the problematic issues where we still have a congestion, this is the ferry crossing. A total of 7 ferries operate, 3 civilian, 2 landing, and 2 rail ferries operate. We keep in touch with Vitaly Janadovich regularly. It is clear that the weather makes adjustments from time to time. But now the wind allows us. Today we transported more than 255 trucks, 20 civilian buses today, on average. In the morning we had a delay in starting the crossing. We transport 450 cars a day. Now we have 321 passenger cars in the port of Crimea and at the airport, where there is a platform for laying down cargo transport. In the morning, we partially sent part of the cars to the Kerch ferry crossing. At the same time, we do not allow cars on the ferry crossing now. We ask everyone to take a detour due to the fact that the cargo of the Ministry of Defense is a priority. 321 cars, 255 trucks are at the airport in the sump, and 129 trucks are in the port of Crimea. We plan to completely complete the situation and eliminate the queue within 24 hours. In general, for trucks, the waiting queue is no more than 2 days, despite the fact that for 2 days directly in the port of Crimea, people are provided with free water. Catering points are located on site. There are several regular buses that take drivers to the supermarket from there for free. That is, they practically buy everything they need. Dry closets operate from the site of the Republic Republic of Crimea, and in general, we post information for vacationers as much as possible on the website of the Ministry of Transport of the Republic of Crimea, the Ministry of Resorts. We inform people as much as possible. Today, more than 8,000 calls have been received from tourists in general to the hotline. I solve all issues myself. The main ones, 80% of the questions are information questions in total. Today, thanks to the measures that Marat spoke about in your decisions, we have no queues at the Dzhankoy, Perekup and Armyansk checkpoints either in our direction or for entry or exit. There were 50 vehicles at the entrance from Dzhankoy, which is practically zero. From the Kherson region to the territory of the Republic of Crimea, 50 units, which for our time is almost a zero situation. That is, there are no queues or any problems associated with traveling along the land corridor. In general, we analyze the situation in detail. Even now, during the meeting, requests are periodically received. Veniamin Kondrativ and I are also in touch. We exchange information with colleagues. Everything is done manually. Today, manual mode is the most efficient. In 1 to 2 days, Marat Shakursyanovich will finish the work and traffic will begin on the bridge. I think that we will get out of the situation with honor. Vladimir Vladimirovich, thank you very much. With the services, with all of us, we are in contact, we interact. Thank you, Sergei Valerievich. We have also discussed this topic since morning, just as we did with Vladimir Vasilyevich. Vladimir Vasilyevich, do you have anything to add? I know that you are working closely with the Crimean authorities. Vladimir Vladimirovich, thank you very much. In addition to what has already been said, I will only add that along the entire length of the road that runs through the territory of the Kherson region, additional places are now being equipped in case people who are traveling need to make a sanitary stop. And there are also people provided with food. Everything possible is done by us. All gas stations, we agreed with them, and this is more than 25 units. All of them will also work and provide services to the population. Now, at the last video link, Marat Shakursyanovich added that a decision was found to add funds for the repair of the road, which will be alternative in the direction of Armyansk. Part of this road is good there, but 60 kilometers have been practically destroyed recently by heavy trucks. That part of the road we need to do. Everything has already been discussed. The builders are already scheduled. By the way, on that road there is a very large and world-famous Askania Nova reserve. People, for the most part, go now to relax. There will still be a month and a half of summer ahead. They will go both to Crimea and from Crimea. They can also see the Askania Nova reserve. Otherwise, we have everything we need. The buses are moving. All the people have been warned. Everything is going in the order in which we have planned. Thank you very much for your assistance. Thank you. Veniamin Ivanovich Kondrativ. Please, dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, exactly half an hour ago I returned from the access roads to the Crimean bridge and from the Kerch crossing. With my own eyes, I saw the situation today with cars, with people who are trying to move from the territory of the region to Crimea. The most important thing is to fulfill your previous instruction, to create the most comfortable conditions for waiting for moving to Crimea for all people who are both in cars and trucks. Since early morning, we have been working on the creation of 4 intercepting parking lots, designed for 4,000 cars, near the Kerch ferry crossing and the Crimean bridge. These intercepting parking lots allow all interested people in cars to wait out the waiting time for the crossing in the most comfortable conditions possible. Temporary kitchens have been deployed at the intercepting parking lots. Cold and hot water is available. Catering points are operating. Ambulances are on duty. And sanitary points have been installed. Now there are 750 cars in these park and ride parking lots, which are awaiting the decision of the government commission, as Marat Shakursyanovich said, about the possibility of moving to Crimea through the Crimean bridge. If necessary, we are ready, dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, to increase the number of parking lots with a capacity of up to 5,000 spaces for cars. We are also working very actively to prevent all vehicles going to the Krasnodar territory, even at the approaches to the region, about the possibility of moving to Crimea through new territories, which has already been mentioned, in order to prevent the maximum accumulation of vehicles on the approaches to the Crimean bridge. We inform everyone who is in the parking lots about the availability of rooms in the nearest hotels at affordable prices. We understand that no one should earn money here, where families with small children are in cars. Of course, we also organize the possibility for them to stay in hotels that are as close as possible to these park and ride parks. In addition, along the entrance to Taman, through a special board, we notify about the impossibility to drive along the Crimean bridge at this point in time and about the specific location of the intercepting parking lots so that everyone who is traveling understands that it makes no sense to move towards the Crimean bridge, but it is better to stay on equipped places and wait for a decision. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, once again, I want to emphasize that today's events have allowed us to fulfill your instructions and move people from many kilometers of traffic jams along the roads at the entrances to the Crimean bridge to parking lots equipped with everything necessary. I mean, it's very important. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, still, based on the current situation, in order to complete it as much as possible, I am very grateful to Marat for the promptness. For today's opportunity, I hope that we will go across the Crimean bridge. Nevertheless, if a decision on the possibility of passing through the Crimean bridge to Crimea is not made within the next 24 hours due to increased danger, then I ask you to do everything possible to ensure that 750 cars enter Crimea. These are mostly residents of the Crimea, and, of course, they say that their children are waiting at home. They are not vacationers, they just leave to buy something, to see something, and, of course, they return to their families. I talked to them, and it was not easy to communicate. Of course, they say that going through new territories is a very big circle for them, and I ask you to support, if possible, the crossing of cars by ferry, literally in order to let these 750 cars pass. To do this, you just need to instruct the Ministry of Transport of Russia on the possibility of crossing the accumulated passenger vehicles at the intercepting parking lots through the ferry crossing, and on establishing additional inspection points at the ferry crossing directly for cars. Once again, I emphasize, we have now streamlined work on the ferry crossing of trucks, that is, heavy trucks, and thank God, nothing accumulates there. Everything works automatically, but I understand that here we will push this well-coordinated work schedule for the heavy truck crossing, but nevertheless, these 750 cars are Crimeans. Still, by means of ferries they need to be transported to the territory of Crimea. This will allow us to relieve tension with the accumulated vehicles now and prevent its accumulation in the future. Because then the algorithm is already working in a systemic mode, where people practically understand and do not go to the Crimean bridge today. Understanding the current situation. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, the report is over. Thank you. Vitaly Janadovich. Please comment. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, dear colleagues, the Ministry of Transport immediately took measures to normalize the situation. I want to thank both Sergei Aksyonov and Oleg Belozerov. We discussed the necessary decisions at 4 a.m. and at 8 a.m. a permanent operational headquarters for transportation and logistics was deployed at the Ministry of Transport. I will not repeat what Marat Khusnullin said, I will only add that suburban passenger traffic along the Krimsky Bridge section has also been fully restored. And in addition to the 2 trains following the schedule, we have launched 2 more trains. And tomorrow we will increase the so-called rail buses by 2 trains. On July 19th, Oleg Belozerov decided that 2 more trains would arrive. Thus we would provide rail traffic in the normal volume. Colleagues have already reported about the ferry crossing here. I want to tell you that since 10:30 a.m. today, when we allowed flights, we have made 9 flights. We have transported 648 passengers, 30 buses and 188 vehicles on our ferries that are involved here. I have now heard wishes for 750 passenger cars. I think that tonight, as Marat reported, at 1 o'clock we will start moving cars across the bridge, and then we will proceed from this. So far, the priority task for us was to provide the peninsula with food and special goods. So we worked in this mode. I think that all tasks are clear. I would like to thank the leaders of the regions who promptly responded. We are in working contact with them all the time, and tomorrow we will continue our work. Thank you. The report is finished. Fine. Thanks a lot. The overall situation is clear. Everyone knows what needs to be done. I hope that the work will be organized rhythmically and smoothly, and this will lead to the desired result. In conclusion, I would like to say the following. I want to repeat that what happened is another terrorist act of the Kiev regime. This is a crime that is senseless from a military point of view, having no meaning, since the Crimean bridge has long been not used for military transportation, and this is a cruel crime, since innocent civilians suffered and died. Of course, there will be a response from Russia. The Ministry of Defense is preparing relevant proposals.